Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I'm back for another channel update and random topic video. And I'm recording this at the beginning of July 2025. Quite a few things to chat about. I was going to wait a little bit more into the month to do one of these, but boy howdy, the end of June and especially the last couple days, the first couple days of July, have been absolute chaos in many different ways, and in many ways, not in a good way. Not in a good way whatsoever. So, this video is probably going to be a little bit all over the place because there's quite a few things I want to talk about. But I'm going to keep the positive stuff toward the end because I want to, again, leave on a positive note. But yeah, there are things I definitely want to cover in this particular video. So, before I do any of that, good, bad, and everything in between, as I do start out these channel update videos, I want to again thank you to everybody who has been supporting Illegally Cited in whatever form. The YouTube channel, Twitch stream, Mixer stream when I was doing that back in the day. I did a few blog posts way back when. I haven't done that in forever, but like I said, whether you've been following Illegally Cited for 10 minutes or 10 years, I started this in 2012 and it's still going strong. Just out of curiosity, I just looked at how the channel is doing, and we are just over 4,500 subscribers. I think it was like 4,557, I think it was. So, it's small potatoes compared to a lot of channels, but you know what? When I started this for the first couple of years, I'm lucky if I had 10 subscribers. I'm lucky if I had 4 views on a video. So, you know what? We're doing okay. And that's perfectly fine. Be cool if we could hit 5,000 by the time we hit the new year. We've got 6 months, or we got 5 months or so. We can maybe hammer out another few. So let's see if we can hit that 5,000. That'd be cool. But regardless of that, I've received again some great comments from viewers, thanking me for the content. It's really, again, with all the negativity going on in the world today, not just myself, but if there's a game that you like, a creator that you like, if there's somebody does something helpful or entertaining for you, let them know, because especially right now, people need, that helps people out a lot, just something, that can make somebody's day. I've literally gotten a couple of comments or emails from developers. There was one I literally just read this morning from, I forget the name of the game, that Match 3 demo that I did a couple weeks ago. They watched my video, they liked it, and they are considering they're looking into some of the suggestions that I had for the video, and I had referred them to a couple of those mobile accessible Match 3 games. So, who knows? Maybe we could get some blind accessible. I can't remember the name of the game. Sorry, guys, but it was like that kind of Magic School one with the Match 3, and you're choosing like the character dialogue. So that again, shout out to them. Very much appreciated. Again, if you're a developer interested in making your app or your game or whatever more accessible, please reach out. I would be happy to answer any questions. I'd be happy to help however I can. So yeah, absolutely. And thank you to everybody for your support. Thank you for following. I hope you find it entertaining. I hope you find the channel helpful. I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, sometimes more frequently. I just did a bonus video today as I'm recording this. I might leave this video for Saturday. Then again, I might even do it on the 4th of July holiday, given all the things that are happening. But I released a bonus video today. Um, again, people ask how I get into how to get into advocacy work, consulting work. Um, how do I do the work that I do as an assistive technology specialist? How do I, I've talked about that in my Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist. Please definitely check that out. I'm rather proud of those videos. But, sometimes I like to just show you the process. Again, I showed you guys the Diablo 4 beta when I was kind of really testing out that and writing down feedback for the developers and kind of the attention to detail that you kind of have that goes into that. And I've talked about it on the channel recently before, but I've had this iOS bug that I've been really kind of bashing my head against a wall for a couple months now, trying to figure out what is wrong, what's causing the bug, and hoping Apple fixes it. I've been talking to Apple Accessibility, and I have finally released a video showcasing the bugs and the differences, because it seems to only be happening on my 16 Pro Max. On my work phone, my 14 Pro Max is fine. But check that video out if you are a low vision user or work with people who have low vision. Or even if you're sighted, just open up the magnifier app and watch the video, see if you can reproduce some of the things that I'm talking about here. I would especially be interested in if anyone has a 16 Pro or 16 Pro Max with the same camera, the same cameras. I would be very curious to know, because and I did send this video to Apple Accessibility earlier this morning too. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Sometimes I do bonus videos, whether it's a holiday, maybe it's an accessibility thing, maybe it's just, because whatever, something really cool happened, something noteworthy happened, something bad happened, who knows. But, it just, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, you can count on those. I cover everything from low vision games, totally blind accessible games. I got another couple of really nice comments from blind players who have discovered they can play video games, and there are video games that are accessible to them, and that's awesome. That's why I do what I do. That's why we're here. So I also, again, everything is divided into playlists. So if you just found the channel, and like I said, I had somebody ask me, hey, can you let me know a list of games that are blind accessible for PC or iOS or console? And I basically said in the comment, I said, well, yeah, rather than listing them out here, I would just really recommend people check out the playlists area of the channel. And, I have PC Accessible Game Spotlight, iOS Accessible Game Spotlight, Xbox, PS4, PS5 Accessible Game Spotlight. Those are all playlists of games that can be played with no usable vision whatsoever. Low vision spotlight videos are, of course, ones that I play with my remaining vision. I cover virtual reality, and yes, I have gotten back into that again. I did one VR video again. I did that PowerWatch Simulator VR from my Quest 3 that I got in June. And so, yeah, I'm covering VR again. Maybe not quite as much as I used to, but I will still cover it. I cover apps, accessible apps. I cover accessible AI tools, hardware, assistive technology. I cover, any number of things, other geeky things, geeky collectibles I've acquired over the years. Again, my Growing Up Illegally Cited, that's where I answer a lot of questions that people have. about myself, the channel, my life. I cover specific topics about being blind or low vision. So, yeah, check out the playlist section. Hopefully, you'll find something there that you like. And again, thank you to everybody for the support. June has been a crazy month. Man, I can't, like, 2025 in general has just been this roller coaster ride of complete insanity, good, bad, and everything in between. Between life, government, tech and gaming, accessibility, all these different things has just been a roller coaster so far. In June, like I said, there was a lot of positive things that happened in June. I talked about it in a couple of my recent videos. You know, we had, because of the EAA law that took effect late in June, there was a deadline that all devices that have operating systems essentially have to provide a base level of accessibility for users. And that's why we saw, the Steam Deck now has a screen reader. I think that's actually out of beta now, so I think that's starting to roll out to everybody if you do an update on your Steam Deck. The Steam desktop client is like, if that's supposed to have an update as well. So if you're a screen reader user, try putting Steam into big picture mode, and you might actually get more desktop client accessibility. I have not been able to take a look at that yet. Excuse me. The Oculus, or the Meta Quest line, the Quest 2, the Quest 3, now has a basic screen reader in it. It's not perfect. Neither is the Steam Deck version. But it's a start. It's there. The Nintendo Switch 2 that also came out in June. God, yeah, that did come out in June. God. Again, June. I started that month worrying about and going through all this jury duty nonsense and busy craziness at work and planning for, work projects I had to get done and do. And then, like I said, we had the Switch 2. We had the Steam Deck update. A friend of mine got me back into the Meta Quest line again, especially once I heard about them supporting a built-in screen reader. So, yeah, it's been really chaos, and that's some great stuff. So I've covered the Steam Deck accessibility. I've covered the Nintendo Switch accessibility. I've done a video, like I said, the Power Wash Simulator VR. I have not done a video about the Meta Quest accessibility. I tried to do a video. I recorded one that I was actually pretty proud of. The only problem is, once I got done recording and I watched the video, yeah, the recording went great, except for some reason, when you record footage from the Meta dashboard, it'll record the game audio and app audio when you go into something, and it'll record the visuals of the Meta Quest dashboard, but it will not record the audio of the screen reader. So all the things I was demoing and describing, like, some of the visual stuff, you could see, but you couldn't hear any of the screen reader stuff I was doing. So I did not release that video. I actually deleted that video because, unfortunately, like I said, the screen reader was not audible in the video. And I probably will do some sort of a accessibility overview video and at least talk about the screen reader and show you some of the techniques that I did in that other video, because there's some low vision things that work really nicely. Being able to unpin or undock windows and move them around freely can help a lot for low vision users. I use this feature all the time. But I want to wait until I don't have the new dashboard interface. A friend of mine said that Meta was gradually rolling it out. And so um, he has it, and he said there are some things that are fairly different. So I kind of want to wait. They're rolling it out gradually. It's one of those things where, these companies are rolling features out gradually to users. So once I get this new UI and I have a chance to play with it a little bit, I probably will do some sort of a MetaQuest dashboard video in the future. I will still probably do a separate hardware review for the MetaQuest. And I'm kind of what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine it's going to be a hardware review, but it's going to be for the MetaQuest 3 and a couple of accessories. Because, again, thank you to Chris. Been a friend of mine for years now. He got me back into VR again, and he had some accessories he wasn't using. So I have a charging dock. I have the Elite Strap headband that has an additional battery, which has come in handy for my power wash addiction. I have the official MetaQuest case. So I'm gonna just do a hardware review and go through some thoughts on that, because I've had the Quest now for a couple of weeks and I've used it enough to where I think I can give you guys a pretty good hardware review for that. So maybe I'll try to work on getting that video recorded this weekend. We'll see. I actually just picked up another accessory for it, the compact charging dock. I have not opened that or played with it, but I got that the other day, and I'll talk more about that in the Quest hardware review video. But so yeah, I'll be hoping to cover that here in the near future. So yeah, I mean, there's always games coming out. July, I'm really looking forward to Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remastered. We can play as Doom Guy. We can play as Michelangelo. We get Tony Hawk 3 and 4, which, Tony Hawk 3, I have so many fun memories of that in college. Bring it on. We have the RoboCop standalone expansion. I forget what it's called now, but that's coming out this month. I will absolutely be there for that because I loved RoboCop Rogue City. We finally got the good RoboCop game we've deserved. We've needed for years. Thank you to the developers for treating that franchise with respect and actually giving us not only a game with a good story, but fun gameplay. Like I thought it was just going to be a shooter, and it had RPG elements. You could kind of go around like at little open world levels. It was really freaking good. And I still have not gotten around. I have not had a chance after they put New Game Plus mode in. I want to play through that again and just have my buffed up RoboCop character with all my like upgrades and stuff that I had. I still want to have time to play that. So very much looking forward to that expansion. I think the 2D Ninja Gaiden game comes out this month. I did a demo time video for that. It's hard as balls, but there are some assists, and so we'll see about that. I don't know if I'm going to cover it on my channel, but I will at least talk about it at some point. Donkey Kong Bonanza looks fantastic. They did that Nintendo Direct about a week ago, and I found out since, like, it seemed pretty obvious when I watched the video, and I had a sneaking feeling, but it's from the Mario Odyssey team, it sounds like. And that is super clear. Just the structure of the game, you're connecting bananas instead of the moons, but you have this extra like destruction focus. I have a funny feeling that I'm going to get really, really into Donkey Kong Bonanza. I don't know what it's going to have as far as accessibility features, but they did mention some sort of, I forget what they said. There was something in that direct where they had talked about some sort of like assist mode or uh, like some sort of guidance thing to tell you where your next objective is. Now, I don't know if that's going to be just visual thing or if it's going to have like an audible or like a, hey, point the camera in the direction of where I need to go type of mechanic where a blind player could play. But rest assured, I'm going to find out because I did pre-order that game. I know it'll be good. Um, so yeah, those are just a few. And then, it's all the little indie games that you get surprised by, like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out, or you see something on sale. And again, the indie scene is where it's happening because, boy, we have some stuff to talk about later in the video. Um, so yes, content is not going to be slowing down. If you miss some of those accessibility videos, the Switch, the Steam Deck, check those out. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Again, there's still work to be done for both, but there's hope. There's hope. And we are further along than I ever thought we would be at this point because I was really losing hope kind of for Nintendo, but especially Steam because Valve seemed oblivious for as many times as I and others have reached out to them asking for them to improve accessibility for their desktop client and their Steam Deck, etc., etc. Now we get into the tough part of the video. This is the part I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to largely keep this to tech and gaming related because there's other things I want to talk about. But I have to mention the real world to some degree because of what's going on right now. I don't typically get political. I don't like to talk politics. Hell, I hate watching the news because it's either rage-inducing or mind-numbingly depressing. But a lot of shit has gone down in the last couple of weeks. Again, I live in Minnesota. A couple of weeks ago, we literally had 2 lawmakers. One got killed. Her and her husband got killed. The other, it was an attempted assassination. Thankfully, him and his wife lived through it and are recovering. I don't care what side you're on. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. That shit is unacceptable. And I'm glad they finally got the prick. It was like a 2-day manhunt, but they finally caught the prick. And I hope he gets what's coming to him. But, again, that's the problem, is we're so divided. And not only are we divided, we're so hostily divided these days. Everything is to the extreme. People will basically say, well, I'm hardcore Democrat or I'm hardcore Republican, the people on the other side are just stupid. And personally, I'm getting really sick and tired of both extremes. I really don't, I think the current version of the Republicans have lost their ever-loving mind. And so I'm not really with them much at all. But I'm really tired of the extreme Democrats too. Again, the stereotypical, like, oh, I'm a gun-toting redneck and it's just about America. Or you are a, liberal who is just all hippie and whatever. The stereotypes. But it's almost becoming, the stereotypes are almost becoming reality. And everybody is so damn divided. Like, you can lean one way or another, that's fine. But to be so damn openly hostile toward everybody else, you're not helping. And, even if you want to get your message across, like, I'm a live and let live person. If you're not hurting me, if you're not hurting anybody, you should be able to, live the life the way you want to. You should be able to, I don't care, you can love and have sex with whoever you want to. If you want to be, if you're gay or lesbian, or if you're trans or whatever it is floats your boat, you're not hurting me. More power to you. I don't care. Live and let live. I will live my life the way I want to, and you're free to live your life the way you want to. I'm fine with that. But, again, I don't want, either side. I don't want shoved down my throat. Um, I don't want all the Republican stuff shoved down my throat. I don't want all the, like, whether it's, LGBTQ pride or disability pride. Like, I don't necessarily care. Like I said, live how you want to live, and I'm supportive of that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But, you know, I don't want to make that my entire identity either. Yes, I have a disability. Yes, I advocate for accessibility. Um, but I just want to be another person like everybody else. I want to enjoy games and movies and books and music and, do whatever it is I want to do. Um, but I don't want your opinion, whatever it is, shoved down my throat either. All the pride stuff last month, or during um, whatever cause we're supposed to care about this particular day. Because the problem that I have with those is, I'm not saying those are bad things. Again, I have nothing against pride. I have nothing against any of that. But it's like, and it seems like a lot of people only care about that when they're told they're supposed to. I've done things for Global Accessibility Awareness Day, Disability Awareness, Employment Awareness Month, that kind of a thing. And those things are important, but it's like, you get your token messages from companies or from people because it's easy to do. I can make a 5-minute video. I can send a quick Facebook message or a tweet or whatever. And I can say, yes, these are important. You should support people with disabilities. You should support LGBTQ, whatever it is. But then once it's past that time, it's like, who cares? Um, I live my life. Um, I think that accessibility is important 365 days a year. I think treating people with respect is important 365 days a year. Um, so yeah, there's that. But literally, as I'm recording this, it's Thursday evening, and we just found out that they passed. I'm not even going to say the words because the the BBB is the closest I will get to saying it. Makes me want to throw up in my mouth just a little bit. To me, the BBB is the Better Business Bureau, and what they're making it stand for now sucks. I am not in support of that at all. I think it's going to do a lot of harm to a lot of people. Every, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, whatever. People should have basic human rights. People should be able to have food. People should be able to have education. People should be able to have medical coverage, um, a place to live. Those are just things that people should have. Like, if you have a shred of decency, people should have those things. And boy, yeah, they're really trying to gut everything. They're trying to mess up the Department of Ed. They're trying to mess with Medicare or Medicaid. They're trying to mess with, taking funding away from programs that low income people need, um, and tax breaks for the wealthy. And it's just really ugly. There's way too many things. I mean, literally, I thought it was sort of funny earlier this week when they basically made so that people knew exactly what was in that bill, they made people read it, like all 16 hours worth of reading the bill. Um, because it sounds like people just didn't even know what they're voting for because they didn't bother to read it. Um, but yeah, I think if it's sad because I think if you are poor or even middle class, there are some rough times ahead. If you are on Medicaid, there's probably going to be some rough times ahead. If you have a disability, God only knows. I mean, especially what they're doing with immigration and ICE and all that stuff is scary. You have, basically Trump saying, "Oh, we're not just going after immigrants now. We're going after anyone, actual citizens who I think are criminals, or anyone who disagrees with me. We're going to go after you and deport them too." Hitler, anyone? You wonder how Nazi Germany started? Um, it's kind of fucked out there right now. Literally, what do they call it? Gator, that frickin' Florida place that they just opened this week or something. Like almost like a concentration camp kind of a thing. What the fuck do they call it? I just went blank. I can't remember what they called it, but it's nuts, you guys. People that have been citizens here for like, or people who've lived here for like 20, 30 years who are just getting to like rounded up. Um, it's scary, man. Um, but no, I do not, like I said, I do not agree with what just got passed. It is going to hurt a lot of people. I do, even if you're not on Medicaid, again, let's say that you're in a small town, you're in a rural area, or you're in a low income area. Maybe you have a small hospital or clinic, and a lot of their income is from Medicaid patients and things like that. If they don't get that funding, they could be hurting really bad, and so you could have actual, like I said, clinic and hospital closures, medical care, medical care places close. I mean, literally, the clinic that I had as my primary clinic got closed, and then like the doctors that that used to work there, they moved over to another clinic. But like literally, yeah, the clinic that I would go to got closed. I think it was like late last year, early in January or something like that. It was somewhere around there. And so like, and we're in a big city, so that one literally got closed and the staff got relocated. So it's not just going to affect like, oh, I'm not on Medicaid, who cares? It seems like it's going to have a trickle, it's going to have a ripple effect. Um, and again, with the SNAP stuff, the food stamp stuff, again, go to my Growing Up Illegally Cited video playlist and watch my employment related video, because I talk a lot about my struggles that I had after I graduated college. I worked while I was in college. I had a couple of on-campus, off-campus jobs on occasion. I got my major, I got my minor. I thought I was set. I could apply for jobs and I could be employed, a couple months. It should be okay. Boy, was I wrong. I was unemployed for 3.5 years, long story short. Not for lack of trying. I applied for jobs constantly. I got interviews, but nobody would hire me. It was some of the most depressing, most difficult times of my life. Now, granted, I had a couple of good roommates at the time. Um, Again, I even talked about it in that video, but like, yeah, I was not a pleasant person to be around for a couple of years because it was really, really hard for me. But go check out that video. So I've been there. I've been on SSI. I've been on government services. I've been on it was like the EBT, the EBT card. I didn't have subsidized housing because that there's a waiting list from hell to get on those. So, you're lucky if you get on that. But um, I was stone cold poor for several years, and so I get it. I've been there. Um, and depending on how much funding this stuff has, and are the requirements they're putting in place, whether you're disabled or not, it's going to be I don't want to say interesting to see, but I don't know what's going to happen going forward. And I find it awful convenient that, boy, some of these things aren't going to kick in until, like, what is it, 2027, where after the midterm elections. So they're trying to make themselves not look bad until after the midterms, and hopefully they stay in office, and then they can screw you over. So yeah, I hope we do get some turnover and boot some of these frickin' idiots out of office, because boy howdy. And I've talked about this on other videos. I've talked about it kind of in the employment video. There is some merit. Like, the problem is it's so subjective, and it's so individualized, and there's so many people. There's no easy way to do it. Um, but I do, and again, this is where I'm probably going to get into a little bit of trouble. Um, and a lot of people would probably call me ableist to a degree. But I do think that even if we have a disability, we should, if possible, if we are able, because again, I know there are absolutely situations where people are chronically ill, they're in constant pain, they have multiple disabilities or very severe disabilities. I get that. That is exactly what Social Security, SSDI, SSI is for, and these other assistance programs. But like, if only my disability is I can't see, or I can't see very well, or I can't see at all, I can't hear. I'm in a wheelchair. Wheelchair is a little bit more. It's a little bit tricky because like, you have to get the accessible transportation and everything, and blind is different. Again, there's so many things that go into it. You could be living in somewhere that has zero to little transportation. So again, there are many factors that go into it, but largely, um, I think that if we are able, we should, and we should be expected. We talk a lot about the unemployment statistics, the underemployment statistics of blind or visually impaired or people with disabilities in general. Um, and how that number is so depressingly high. And, we talk about the low expectations, the misconceptions that non-disabled people have about disability. We kind of try to laugh it off. We'll get asked everything from, oh, you can work, to, oh, you can wipe yourself, or, oh, I didn't know, like, what are you doing? Like, I was literally talking to someone the other day, and they were annoyed because people would literally ask them, it's like, what are you doing out in public? You shouldn't be out here. You shouldn't be out in the real world. You're blind. We still have people that think that way. And, again, I've said several times that, yes, having the disability and some of the limitations sucks sometimes. Um, but a lot of the problem is not the disability itself, it's the perceptions that people have of people with disabilities. But I also think to help combat that, we need to do our part as someone with a disability. If we don't, if we're totally blind, if we're low vision, if we're hearing impaired, if we have if we have a mobility impairment, but our mind is there, I'm not in constant pain. I don't, like largely I have an impairment or two, um, but I can largely live my life with some adaptation. I think that we should and that we should be expected to contribute something to society. Even if we are on SNAP, if we're on SSI, if we're on subsidized housing, if we're on Medicaid, I think that there is something to be said that, yes, you people, again, I'll reiterate, people have a right. People should have food. They should have health care. They should have shelter. They should have a home. They should not be living in horrible conditions. Totally agree with that. But again, if we want to get rid of or lessen these perceptions, these low expectations, these misconceptions that people have of us, we need to do our part too, and we need to get off our ass, and we need to, whether it's working part-time, whether it's working full-time, or even if it's volunteering somewhere for 8 hours a week, just doing something to not only, kind of so people see you out in the world, you know, whether it, is seeing you interact with other non-disabled people, seeing you travel, seeing you work, seeing you, helping other people, volunteering. You're building your resume. Even if you're volunteering somewhere, you're building your resume, you're building skills. And, and it's not even that. It's, you feel good when you help somebody out. If you're able to contribute something to society. And I say that because, again, it's probably far fewer people than a certain group of people, probably the Republicans, would have you believe. They're like, oh, there's all these moochers that just sit in their parents' basement and play video games. That's the quote that's going around social media. Or all these immigrants are just not, they're just taking our benefits and doing nothing. We have loads of immigrants in the Twin Cities, and they're working everywhere. I get Uber and Lyft drivers, like they're doing that. I mean, they're everywhere. They're not. They're working. They're doing their thing. You know, they're getting out of horrid living conditions. Refugees and stuff. Um, but like people with disabilities, again, we have to. I've been friends with many people. I've dated people who are smart, who are capable, who are like they have really neat interests, and they're good at technology. They're good at working with animals. They're good at working with kids. They're good at whatever it happens to be. But I've met so many people professionally through my work. But again, I've had friends. I've gone out with people. Um, and they're, again, they have a disability, but they're fully capable. But I've literally pretty much had them tell me essentially, well, why should I have to work? I can just get free, I can get free money every month. I can get free Medicaid. I can get free groceries or food stamps, SNAP, whatever. And, again, if you, let's say you are working toward trying to find a job and you need that to stay afloat, like I did, totally get it. If you have a severe disability or in chronic pain or whatever, that's what these services are for. But especially if they're doing all these huge government cuts, let's think about this a minute and let's try to make sure that the people who truly need these services get them, let's make sure that they have access to them, the people that really need them. Yeah, I could just decide to quit my job today and try to live off the government. It would be miserable. I'm not sure that I could do it, especially living in the cities here, because everything is expensive as hell here. My rent alone. But like, if you just have the attitude, well, I just want somebody to take care of me, whether that's a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or the government, I don't know, like I just can't think that way. Like, if I'm in a relationship, I want people to both pull their weight. I want a collaborative relationship. If I'm, you know, using government services, I want to give something back. Even if a friend offers to do something kind for me, I want to pay it forward or I want to pay them back. Um, but I see a lot of people, and even people without disabilities. It's like, oh, if I can, weasel my way through and get as much as I can for free off of the system. I don't know, but like, again, I know a lot of people will call me ableist in the disability or blindness community, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't have access to these benefits. They absolutely should. But especially with all these budget cuts and what they're trying to do, they're trying to gut all these things. I think that we should probably, if we can, we should be expected to work or volunteer, because the people that need them, if we don't have the money, we should really give it to the people that need them. And, again, if we're able to, we should contribute something meaningful to society and not be a mooch. Even with the channel, I'm not getting paid for it. It's kind of a volunteer type of gig for me, but I love doing it. And getting those comments from gamers or other blind and low vision viewers, that's like, oh, hey, I found your channel and I didn't know there was an app that could help me live more independently, or I didn't know I could play games after I lost my vision. That stuff is great. When I'm at my day job, work with students all the time, and they're like, oh, I didn't know my phone had that. Cool. I can not struggle to read my homework, or oh, there's a device that can like, I didn't think, like, for a career I would love to go to college and get a degree in engineering or whatever it is, and it's like I didn't think I would because of my vision. And I show them a piece of technology or something like that can get them past whatever barrier they're facing. That's great. So I know I've jumped all over the place with this whole real world stuff, but like, again, I think this BBB crap is a bunch of bullshit. I do not like it. I think, again, that everybody has rights to not be hungry, to have medication, to have a place to live, to have their dignity. But as I've said before, I think, and if I have people that, if I have friends or others that I know that are that have kind of been this way. It's like, oh, I'll just kind of do whatever and not really. I don't want to look for a job. I don't want to do anything. Um, you know, if they are watching, I do think that we should step up. I mean, not only to give something back to the community, but if we, again, we all complain about how society sees us, and that is absolutely a valid complaint. But then again, we need to do our part too. We need to prove to society that we're not a bunch of bums laying around living off, living off the government. We need to volunteer. We need to work and, give back if we can. I said if we can. There are people who legitly are unable to, but I know many people who are smart and quite capable, and just literally have told me, if not in words, but with action or both, that, nah, I don't care. I'll just rely on somebody else. And that I do have a problem with. And that's where we're going to leave it at that. So I know that's not a popular opinion. And anybody, whether you have a disability or not, I have a disability. I could become even more disabled at some point. I probably will become more disabled at some point. As I get older, I may lose mobility. I may lose some hearing. Who knows? I could break something. Um, but while I'm able to, damn right, I'm going to try to help people out. I'm going to work. I'm going to build up my retirement. And I'm going to try to better myself the best I can. So that's, again, I know a lot of people are pissed, rightfully so, with what's been happening in this regime so far in 2025. It is a dumpster fire shit show in so many ways, to put it politely. But those are some thoughts that I do have. Like I said, I'm against much of what's happening right now. I'm very unhappy with what's happening right now and what just got approved in Congress and what the president just signed. But again, I think we need to pull our own weight, and we need to contribute if possible too. If we need to contribute if possible as well. And so many people moving forward, people are saying, again, it's such a weird timing, because this whole BBB crap gets past July 3rd. And we have our Independence Day, July 4th holiday tomorrow, as I'm recording this. Yeah, this probably will be a July 4th video, screw it. And there's some, I guess there's some irony to that, but what I'm seeing a lot on social media is, what's there to celebrate? This is just, it's disgusting, it's hopeless. And I agree with all that. It is depressing, it's disgusting, it's infuriating. And it does not feel like a time to celebrate at all. But what I've decided is, no, I'm not really going to be celebrating, but I'm not going to be giving up either. I'm going to chill out. I'm going to relax this weekend. If I see some fireworks, cool. But I'm just going to stay at home, play some drums, read, play some video games, maybe make a couple videos, do whatever. But when it comes after this weekend, again, I'm going to keep doing the things that I'm doing. I'm going to go do my day job. I'm going to do my YouTube videos. I'm going to continue working with um, XR Access. I'm going to continue working at the Microsoft Low Vision Advisory Board when we do. I'm going to continue my advocacy and consulting work. All this bullshit aside, nothing is going to change for me in the fact that I'm still going to do the best job that I can in whatever I do, and I'm going to try to help people, whether that's helping people through my day job, my assistive technology work that I do there, whether it's helping people find apps and games and tools and entertainment through my YouTube channel, or podcast interviews, or working with developers, advocacy work, consulting work. I love what I do and I'm going to keep doing it. So, yeah, it's a real fucking bummer. It's, like I said, it's going to get really probably pretty bad. And I'm truly thankful that I am in the position where I am. I have a good job right now. Thankfully, I pray to God that I don't get laid off, as so many have recently done. Next topic in a minute. But I'm thankful to have a home, a good home, a great family, good friends. And a lot of people don't even have that. They're struggling way more than I am right now. So I recognize that I'm in a place of, I'm fortunate enough to have what I have right now. But I'm going to use that not to be a prick, an entitled prick, and be greedy and, I'm going to use it. I'm going to do what I can to help other people, So that's some real world stuff. Like I said, happy 4th of July to everybody. I know there's a lot of bad shit going on in America right now. It is depressing. Don't doom scroll. Turn off social media for a while. Be with family. Be with friends. Again, do something to help somebody else, whether that's helping a friend, volunteering, getting out there doing a job and helping people. There's midterms. Hopefully we can undo some of this crap that's going on right now. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be very, very hard. It's going to take a lot of time because they done fucked stuff up real good. And it's going to take a long time to dig our hole out of the world hating us right now. But happy 4th of July to everybody. Hopefully it'll get better if World War III doesn't start first. But yeah, anyway, that real world stuff, politics aside, the other bad thing that I have to talk about, gaming and tech related. Yeah, last week we got notification, or we've been hearing that Microsoft is going to lay off a whole bunch more people this week. And boy, howdy did they. Holy hell, they laid off over 9,000 people. I think this is their 4th round of layoffs within the last year or two. I can't even keep track anymore. I mean, the game industry itself and the tech industry itself is just going through this huge few years of volatility right now. But the last 2 to 3 years have been terrible. How many times have I mentioned on the channel that as much as I would have always dreamed of working in the game industry, especially now, I wouldn't do it. If somebody offered me a full-time job at a game company, I wouldn't move from where I am right now. There's even, I'm still a little bit nervous about, I work for the government, and usually those jobs, once you're in, your job is generally pretty secure. But what have I been talking about the last half an hour? All the stuff that's happening in the real world and politics and, Department of Ed cuts and everything. There's some concern there, but I think my current job where I work now is probably, hopefully, a bit more stable than a lot of what's in the game industry right now. Um, Microsoft closed several studios. I can't even remember. They've closed a few studios. They've canceled several games. They've drastically cut positions in studios. Now, again, people like they had the Activision Blizzard buyout. They bought Bethesda a few years ago. Anytime you get these mergers or buyouts, you're going to have some degree of like redundancy of like, okay, it sucks for the people that are involved with that, but like, let's say, oh, you buy a big company and the company that buys the other one out, they have a sales team, they have a PR team, they have, whatever resources that aren't really, let's say, in development. Um, they may do some merging. It's like, okay, well, we don't need four different HR departments. We don't need two, three, four, whatever positions. Like, I get that, and it sucks. But with like corporate restructuring and buyouts and stuff, I get that there's going to be some of that to a degree. But this has gone way past that, and I've seen it in a few places the last couple days that I like the quote, the game industry isn't dying, it's being murdered. And that's pretty much the gist of things because, if something is dying, that to me indicates that like you're dying because things out of your control. Whereas what corporate greed is doing to many industries, not just the gaming industry, but the game industry, the tech industry, big business in general. Sorry, I had to get a drink of water. What corporate greed is doing to many industries right now is terrible. Um, and so, remember last year when that Perfect Dark trailer was happening? That looked really neat. I was curious to see where that was going to go. That game's canceled. I've heard that they laid off around, I think it was about 50% of Turn 10, which is really depressing because they are the folks that brought us many Forza games over the past 15, 20 years. But in 2023, they brought us Forza Motorsport. And I have so much respect for them. They've always made quality games, but man, Forza Motorsport, when they made a fully simulation racing game playable by totally blind players, and again, they were taking baby steps. It was a different, I forget the other dev team, the Horizon people, but again, I talked about it before. Forza Horizon, they had that sort of auto steer thing where like you would just follow the line and you clung to it and there's not much else you could do. Forza Motorsport, man, you could have as many or as few training wheels as you wanted. You had the accessibility features and you could play with as many or as few assists as you needed. If you got good at the game, you could literally play that game with all the tuning and fine control as a non-disabled player. Like if you wanted to dedicate the time and learn the game to that degree with the accessibility features and customization in Forza Motorsport, you could. I don't know if the accessibility team was part of who got laid off, but even whether it was or wasn't, again, the other thing that baffles me is you have these teams that have built up so much knowledge over time, whether that's using game engines, whether that's optimizing and making games more stable, whether that's whatever their part of development is. Um, you can't just basically treat each game like a contract and start from scratch every time, especially with how expensive these AAA games are to make. Even if you had veterans who knew what they were doing and were familiar with the engines and the franchise and the features and whatever, it still takes a lot of resources, time, money, people, whatever, to do the job and to make a game. And to have to start over all the time, like it just seems counterintuitive to me. But like all of these, so we had the perfect art people. We had Turn 10. I guess Microsoft was apparently funding Romero Studios, like Romero Games. I've known him and his team have been trying to work on a first-person shooter for a while. We haven't seen anything about it yet. But I mean, I know John Romero is still very capable. Like he's released this couple um, sigil packs for Doom the last few years. Um, Rare, a few people have left Rare. A couple of people were fired from Rare or let go. I can't remember the name of the game. It's one that I totally forgot even existed because we haven't heard about it for so long. But there was another game that got canceled from them. I know I'm missing more. There were some Bethesda layoffs, but like I said, this goes beyond just like, oh, we have a few redundant positions that like we don't need as many of these types of positions because of a merger or a buyout. This is literally, this is where the whole murdering the industry versus the industry dying comes in, because you get these executives, the CEOs. We always have to have continued growth. We have to appease our rich shareholders, and we have to have our executives and CEOs and all these high up positions that make 300 times as much as the next highest uh, employee. We got to make sure that we get that they get theirs every quarter. And so, well, the only way to do that is we get to lay off the grunts. We get to lay off the people that are actually doing the work. And I've had, I've thought again, I've noticed this for years and years, but it's gotten so bad recently that I there's no accountability. There's no consequences hardly. If you're a rich president or a CEO or executive, you royally screw over a company. Oh well, they might boot you out. They might make you resign, but you'll more than likely get your golden parachute or some sort of bonus anyway. And then you'll just get hired at some other company and do the same thing over to them. There's no accountability and there's no consequence to these rich pricks that make their living off of completely using other people, and when they've gotten from what they want out of them, screwing them over royally. You know? And I absolutely hate that. That's why I have no desire to be management. I have no desire. Like, I like actually doing the work. I like, whether it's creating something, troubleshooting something, whether it's helping other people, you know, as like a service thing of like, oh, I can help you get a job, or I can help you learn technology, or I can help you find technology that you need. I like actually like, doing the work that has some meaning behind it. And as I said on Twitter earlier, the amount, like every time this happens, not just Microsoft, but like all these layoffs, how many times have we talked about layoffs in the last 2, 3 years? And like layoffs or mass shootings, school shootings, or whatever. Um, you get this just corporate speak, political speak, verbal diarrhea that is just, how many words can we use to make ourselves sound smart, but literally say nothing of meaning whatsoever? I hate corporate speak. I hate all these, now people would almost call them AI responses, but it's not just AI. Like, yeah, AI can probably generate it now a lot quicker, but like all this like executive speak, corporate speak bullshit that we've heard for years and years, I can't stand it. And that's all these, well, we're realigning our objectives to meet the fiscal responsibilities of the, shut the hell up. It's, no, you're greedy. And if it weren't for the teams, making the hardware, making the games, I mean, God, how many people have, the market was already so, so competitive as it is, with people getting laid off all the time, and it gets more crowded every day. And how many people are going to lose the industry? How much talent are we actually going to lose? How much knowledge are we going to lose from veterans of the industry? They know the games, they know programming techniques. They go to artists, audio engineers, programmers. There's just so much that's going to be lost, because at some point, if you work in the industry, you kind of have to give up. I've heard of people that literally, they get laid off somewhere, they find a job somewhere else, only to get laid off a couple months later from that company. The same thing happens over and over again. And it sucks because in some, like, last month even, we watched the Microsoft event. They did the audio described version. And they had some pretty decent sounding games. They looked good. I've talked about in the past how I've liked Game Pass. It's a good way to try a game and see if you like it. It's a good way to see if a game is accessible enough for you to be able to play it without paying $60, $70, $80 for a game. But at the same time, what I would really like to know, and of course Microsoft probably isn't going to tell us, is if a game is on Game Pass, I would love to know how much of what we pay for the Game Pass service goes to the developer and how much goes to Microsoft and overhead. If it were a pretty high percentage that would go to the developer and Microsoft just took, a little bit of the overhead percentage, I would be more okay with it. But as convenient as Game Pass has been, like I've played many games in the last couple of years on Game Pass, some of which I've really enjoyed, and a few of which I've bought because I just wanted to own them after playing them. And some of them, it's been, oh, I didn't, I was really into this, or I thought I would really be into this, but I don't as much as I thought. Or, oh boy, this game is kind of neat, but I have some major accessibility issues with it, and I'm glad I didn't buy it because I had difficulty playing it. So part of me wants to keep Game Pass because you do save a lot of money. They've been having some bangers come to Game Pass lately. I mean, you can play the new Doom game. You can play Dark Ages. You can play Indiana Jones. You can play South of Midnight. You can play, um, I don't know, so many. Forza, Motorsport. You could play that. You could play a bunch of indie games. So it's a good deal. But as horribly as Microsoft is treating their developers, um, there's a bunch of layoffs at Raven. Even when they were at just Activision before Microsoft bought them, I mourn for Raven Software because back in the day, man, they made Heretic, they made Hexen. I believe they did Soldier of Fortune. They made some cool ass games in the 90s. And now, again, being bought up by Activision and now Microsoft, I mean, they're in the Call of Duty mines. All this live service bullshit. Um, we lost Monolith a couple months ago. Fear, No One Lives Forever. Shogo, Blood. So many good games. They get corporatized, they get put into whatever big franchise it is, Madden or Call of Duty or whatever live service thing they want to milk people for. And then when it doesn't make the profit that they want, even if it's making money, they get shut down and they get laid off. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I know it sounds meaningless, but like, again, my thoughts do go out to all the people that got laid off. Yeah, it sucks that we don't get Perfect Dark anymore. It sucks that we don't get the games that we were potentially looking forward to. That does suck. But what sucks more is all of the people that are losing their livelihoods. I'm fortunate enough, I live on my own. I don't have a girlfriend, unfortunately, anymore. I don't have kids. So whether I have a job or whether I get laid off, it's just me I have to worry about. But so many people, especially as they're kind of rolling back on telework and remote work, you relocate your family to work at some big game company, and then you get a few months in, and you're laid off. Well, now what do you do? Because a lot of these big companies, they live in they work, these people, they work in LA or New York or Seattle or somewhere that's, expensive, and now you got a family that you got to support. Well, now what the hell do you do? Do you try to find another job and get laid off again? Do you just have to totally switch industries and go get a job at McDonald's just to pay the bills? What do you do? Um, Boy, I said I was going to end on a positive note, and I know there were other things I wanted to talk about, but boy, now I am kind of depressed. The real world stuff, the gaming industry stuff that's going on, it's it's brutal out there right now. It is absolutely brutal out there right now. Uh, Um, like I said, I know I haven't even mentioned all of the different layoffs. It's just too many. Like, I can't even remember them all. That's the thing. Romero and Turn 10 and, well, I think it was called The Initiative. It wasn't Rare that was making Perfect Dark, because they're doing other stuff. But I think it was called The Initiative. They were the ones doing this new Perfect Dark thing, and they just flat out closed that whole company. Um, Raven, Bethesda. I don't even know. There's been so many. Within the last 3 or 4 streaks or different layoffs from Microsoft, I wonder what the total number of layoffs have been. I mean, have they laid off 20,000, 25,000 people in the last 2 years? It's sickening. And Microsoft's just the latest. I mean, it's probably the biggest game industry layoff that we've had, ever. But, again, all these other companies are laying off too. Um, we've talked about countless number of major layoffs in the industry, and it's not just gaming. Everyone's chasing, and the scary thing is that yes, there are uses for AI, especially in accessibility, that I'm absolutely loving. The Meta glasses, Be My Eyes, Seeing AI, Ally, all of these things are extremely helpful. But businesses are chasing this AI thing because they want, again, the executives, they're thinking about their bottom line, and they're like, well, what if we can get rid of these positions and just automate it by AI? What if we can automate game creation? What if we can automate art? What if we can automate customer support? What if we can not pay workers to have the human touch for art, for games? What if we can not need to pay human workers to help people through support issues? That's not good. So, yeah, I wanted to touch on the real world stuff, a little bit of the politics. Again, I don't normally talk about politics, but you just can't ignore it. And I've avoided talking about it for so long. Now it just seemed like as good a time as any with what just happened in the House today. And the last couple of days, we've been hearing about all the Microsoft layoffs. Um, and again, that's the other thing is their whole shtick of everything is an Xbox. Well, but if everything is Xbox, like, why? Why would I? Why? I'm starting to really wonder why would we invest in the Xbox ecosystem? They literally announced the ROG Ally Xbox Edition or whatever the hell it's called later this year, a couple models. And in theory, it's a neat idea. But again, as we've talked about before, Windows is natively not that touch friendly. It's not like when you go beyond like an Xbox or big screen interface and you got to do Windows updates, you got to configure things, you got to go get drivers. That stuff is not optimized either for touch or for controller interfaces very well. You have a lot of overhead with all the crap running in the background for Windows. So, um, like, with the amount of accessibility options in Windows, I like the idea of potentially having a Xbox Windows-based handheld if it included the accessibility and if all of it was navigable by controller interface. That'd be great. But at the same time, even again, when, the Hi-Fi Rush people, you get studios, again, the Turn 10 people, Forza, they've never really made a bad game. The Hi-Fi Rush team, I covered that game on the channel. I was kind of bad at it, but it was cool. It had style out the ass, man. It was cool. It was fun. It was challenging. I really liked the art style, the presentation, and people loved it. And then, oh yeah, yeah, you guys did a great job. And then a month later, they laid him off. They closed the studio. So it's like, even if you make a game that makes some money, but not all the money, your job isn't secure. I mean, yeah, everybody's had some duds. Romero's had some duds. Daikatana was not good. But, again, he made the Sigil things again, and he freaking founded the first-person shooter industry, essentially. Him and the rest of the early id team, dude, they created the first-person shooter. And you close that company? Come on, man. Show some respect. Um, I don't know where Xbox is right now. Like, they want to push you to Game Pass, but again, as I asked earlier, how much of when you pay for a Game Pass subscription, how much actually goes to the developer, and how much gets put into overhead and Microsoft and executives? How much of that actually goes to the developer so they can, again, part of me is like, I love the convenience of Game Pass, but like, do I just cancel Game Pass and say screw Microsoft? And then I'll just have to go buy the games if it's something that I really want to. I mean, like I said, I knew I was going to like Doom regardless, so I bought Doom. I did not get that on Game Pass because it's Doom. That's my jam. Um, so I bought a couple games that were on Game Pass. So it's like, I don't know. I love the convenience. I love being able to find out if a game is accessible that way. But do I want to support that? Or do I just buy the game and hope that when I buy the game, the developer gets a greater percentage of that sale to support them? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Uh, let's get out of this. Um, let's get out of all this horror land. Try to end on something a little more positive. And I kind of inadvertently babbled a little bit about it in the beginning, so unfortunately I kind of covered it already. But again, there are good things happening. If you are into gaming, support the indie developers because there's a lot of creativity. If you like new and original ideas, there's a lot of those out there. If you like older games, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, PlayStation era games, there's a lot more of those types of things coming out these days. 2D, 3D platformers, retro first-person shooters, adventure games, you name it. We had the System Shock 2 25th anniversary edition, which I haven't looked at yet, but again, my friend is super into that, and I kind of want to check it out. I hope all the inventory in UI is readable, because that's where I struggled with the first System Shock remake. But there's so much creativity, and all the indie developers are struggling because it's all the big games, the AAA games that get all the attention from the Game Awards, from Summer Game Fest, from all these big events. So, again, support the indie developers because there's so much creativity. And there's, again, there's kind of the nostalgia thing of like, I love playing retro first-person shooters, or I love 2D Metroidvanias, or I love whatever it is. There's probably some indie game scene that's out there for you. I've been playing a ton more indie stuff lately. So there's that. Again, stuff on the channel. I'm going to try to get that MetaQuest 3 review done. Once I do get that the new user interface, and depending on how it goes, I may try to do a video talking about that. The Quest dashboard. And even if I can't demo the screen reader for you, I can talk about it and show you some of the low vision tricks and techniques I've learned. Again, we've got some good games. I talked about those coming out later this month, and there's, again, later this year, there's more. There's more games that are coming. September, October. I think there's a couple August games that, and we don't even know what's coming for Nintendo Switch 2, other than Metroid Prime 4. They've got to have something else later this year, you would think, because we had Mario Kart, we have Donkey Kong Bonanza this month, and I know they have like some Pokemon update or something, and a couple other odds and ends. I would assume Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this fall. I would hope by now that it probably would. But are they going to have another surprise or two for us? I don't know. Again, the thank you to the EU for mandating platform level accessibility, because more devices like the Steam Deck and the Quest and the Switch 2 are getting things like screen readers, and hopefully these companies will choose to gradually improve them with firmware and software updates over time. I genuinely hope that happens. Again, if you're going to be at the ACB convention this next week on the 8th at 4 p.m. Central, I will be part of a panel talking about audio description and accessibility in gaming. So check that out if you're at the conference. I don't think it's going to be streamed, and I don't know if it's going to be archived, but if you're there, check it out. I'm not at the conference, but I'm going to be joining via Zoom, as will one of the other panelists. Check that out. What else? Oh, if you are into rock and heavy metal, yeah, I will release this on Friday, because then you'll have another day to sign up. You may have heard they're doing the official farewell concert for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath in England. It sold out like within a nanosecond in person. And, again, this is not just Ozzy. This is not just Black Sabbath. There's going to be tons of bands. It's almost going to be like a whole festival lineup all day of bands that, rock and heavy metal bands that were influenced or that want to pay tribute to Sabbath and Ozzy, because again, they basically are the fathers of heavy metal. Huge respect for Ozzy, huge respect for Sabbath. I still love a lot of their stuff to this day. I remember my dad, I don't remember which one he had, if it was Paranoid or if it was, I remember he played Black Sabbath on his old record player, 1970s record player. And I heard Sabbath, I'm like, dude, this is awesome. And, because before, I'd heard things, like Beach Boys and 60s music and that, but like, my dad turned me on to so many different like classic rock things. My mom loves AC/DC, hell yeah. But my dad was into Sabbath and like Boston and just so many different, like whether it's classic rock or early, Alice Cooper, things like that. And then when Guns N' Roses, we both love that. And so like, yeah, it's only $30. Like, just look up like Ozzy farewell concert or whatever. You'll find it right away. They are streaming it, and you pay $30 and you can watch it. I mean, as many bands that are going to be performing and seeing Sabbath, the original Sabbath members, and Ozzy, all of them that are still around. I think it's going to be a really cool show. As a big fan of rock and metal, yeah, I'm so glad that they chose to do kind of a pay-per-view stream for this, because that's what I am doing. It is on Saturday the 5th. I think it starts early in our time. I think it starts like early, like 8 o'clock in the morning or something like that. I don't care, man. I'm there. I will definitely be checking that out. So yeah, if you're into rock or metal, see it while you can, because, again, I think this is going to be Ozzy's last time performing. He's gone through so many health issues the last few years. Um, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so I never really had money, and we didn't have concerts that would come to our area. I finally did get to see actual Sabbath with Ozzy leading in, I believe it was 2016, and it was a great show. So I'm so glad, I'm so glad I got to see. I made it a point. There was a few year period, I would say between like 2011, 12 until about 2018. I went to so many concerts, especially, bands that were still performing that, like, they're not going to be around forever. And I even missed a few that I should have gone to. There was a Rush concert that I really should have gone to. There was an Eagles concert I really should have gone to. But like, I saw AC/DC, I saw Iron Maiden, I saw Sabbath. I literally saw The Who. That was a damn good show. Um, so many. More that I can't even remember. But like, I'm glad I got to see, especially Iron Maiden, Sabbath, AC/DC. They were, as Metallica. These are bands I grew up on, and I wanted to see them. I had to see them before, they were done making music or done touring. So check that concert out if you can. If you're into that kind of music, I would highly recommend it. I got my ticket. I will be there virtually. And thank you to Sabbath, thank you to Ozzy, because you started some of my favorite music genre. Love rock and metal. As far as, like I said, we've got our summer conferences coming up this next week. NFB, ACB, I think they're happening around the same time. I don't know if we're going to get some new technology announcements or major app updates or new app releases. I'm curious about things like that navigation-y device that I can't think of the name of. Why can't I remember the name of it? Crap, I literally can't remember the name. I keep thinking WeWalk, but that's the cane. You know the one I mean, though. Like, if you're blind or visually impaired, you've probably heard of it, and I'll remember it once I stop recording the video. But I want to hear more about that. Hopefully we get a release date for the Echo Vision glasses. I'm curious what those are going to be. I wonder if there's going to be any major apps or major updates to Ally or Be My Eyes, or something totally new that we didn't even know about. Again, everyone's chasing the AI thing for good, bad, and otherwise. But again, some of the things that AI has allowed us to do in low vision blind accessibility has been amazing. Be My AI has been fantastic. Ally has worked out pretty great. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious what's going to come out of the summer conferences. Oh, I'm not sure if it's started yet, but I also think this time is, again, I totally forgot to register again, because if it's in Minneapolis again, I'm gonna kind of be pissed, because I should have signed up, looked to see what day I should have signed up for to attend. Awesome Games Done Quick. That's the kind of the break I need right now with all this shit going on in the world. AGDQ, SGDQ. If you can don't like usually again, I forget what the summer one is. They donate between the Prevent Cancer Foundation and the other one is, what is it, Doctors Without Borders, I think it is. Um, they're marathons. They're a week-long marathon now, twice a year. Speed runs. They're fun to watch, and they're doing it for great causes. Again, gamers get all this negative publicity. This is a perfect example of gaming and gamers making a positive, making a difference. Like the amount of money that they raise for these foundations is great, and people have a lot of fun meeting each other and doing speed runs and stuff. So they're just great all around. I'll be checking that out in the next week or so too. So there's probably more I could have talked about, more I should have mentioned, but man, I've been going. I don't even know how long I've been rambling. This has been a long video, but I feel like there's just a lot I had to vent, a lot of stuff I had to get out there. I tried to start and end with something positive, but yeah, let's not be the people that people think we are, as people with disabilities. Let's get out there and show them that we can do stuff too. And let's hope that we can get out of whatever horrible stuff is happening in the world right now. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed the video or found it helpful. You can follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, Blue Sky at Illegally Cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.